When we moved to Seattle in 2004, a co-worker, Tim Hammer, took me, my brother, and some friends on a backpacking trip in the Alpine Lakes wilderness. On that trip, Tim told us about a wild place in the Cascades known as the Pickets. I pretty quickly became obsessed, and I started poking around on the internet, doing Google searches, sending emails, and looking at trip reports. I learned that the Picket Range was named for its resemblance to a picket fence, and is one of the most remote and rugged areas in the Cascades, with peaks called Challenger, Fury, Terror, and the Chopping Block. I eventually ran across a trip report on mountainworks.org of a Pickets Traverse by Michael Stanton, Theron Welch, and Adian Haley. I found Theron's email address, and in March of 2005, I sent him an email inquiring about a 4-day Pickets Loop hike and shared some lines I had drawn on a topo map. Theron wrote me back.
Hey Mark, I saw your plan and have to give you some warning. But thanks for writing, because I would hate for you to have ventured off on that trip without talking to someone. First off, I don't think it's possible to traverse the Pickets in 4 days. Nor is it possible to do in a loop. The ground is just way too rugged. As for your proposed plan, it would be the most hellish trip of your life. Those valleys are the wildest, most remote, most jungle-infested in the state. There are horror stories of people escaping out of McMillan Creek or Goodell Creek and crawling on hands and knees, rappelling endless cliffs and jungle for days on end, running out of food, and so on. You really don't want to go into any valley in the Pickets. Your only choice is to stay high. And unless you like technical alpine traverses, you will be stressed out the whole time. Even if you avoid the peaks, there are tons of steep traverses and routes to climb. It's by far the roughest terrain I've ever been in. Also, the most spectacular. The admission is steep.
So I set a Pickets trip off for a future day, and I set out on my own adventures in the wilderness, making many off-trail traverses and trips up and over and through the mountains. Always at the back of my mind was the Pickets. I considered them my Olympics equivalent of a mountain trip. And so, in December of 2022, I jumped at the chance to sit down with Kaytlyn Gerbin and go over her Pickets notes from her and Jenny's own traverse. And I lay in waiting for the date to line up until July of 2023, the day had finally come. The Pickets are in Washington in the North Cascades. They are a small but mighty section of mountains with a northern and southern range. Our plan was to access the Northern Pickets by going up Ross Lake and in the Little Beaver Valley, traversing, and then out the Big Beaver Valley. Alden met me at the trailhead, and we took the Ross Lake water taxi about 40 minutes up the lake to the Little Beaver trailhead. Thank you much.
Yeah, no problem. You on, you said on Friday?
Friday at 4:50.
Friday at 4:50.
And if it doesn't go, I'll just send a note and say, don't wait. All right. Since we had arrived with plenty of daylight left, we were going to knock off an easy 10 miles up the Little Beaver Creek to Stillwell Camp. Little Beaver Trail, Perry Creek, Big Beaver, Whatcom Pass. All right. Ross Lake and Jack. The Little Beaver Valley has never been logged and is full of old-growth cedar and fir. There were many dry creek crossings, as well as at least one wet crossing that we took our shoes off for. The trail follows the creek and meanders through forest and lush ferns and skunk cabbage.
Trying to keep on moving, not get eaten alive. Giant skunk cabbage.
We made good time for 11 miles up the well-marked path before coming to the turnoff for Stillwell Camp, which lies between two forks of the Little Beaver Creek. We crossed one fork of the creek on the bridge, only to wander along a trail that petered out, and it took us another hour bushwhacking back across another fork of the creek and wandering around in the dark before finally finding camp after 9 p.m. The next morning we had some breakfast and packed up camp, just as the sun broke through and we started out, once again having to cross the Little Beaver Creek. We started out making good time up the trail. The night before I had slipped on a log and hit my left kneecap on a broken branch that gave me a deep gash. I had bandaged myself up best as I could, though all the walking shifted the band-aids around. While the lower trail had been cleared by a trail crew, beyond Stillwell there were plenty of blowdowns to crawl over. Eventually, the trail began a gradual climb through thickets of vine maple, salmonberries, and tall grass before Whatcom Peak finally came into view.
Going up the very steep, persistent Whatcom switchbacks. All right, notification that over Whatcom Pass and down to the other side is closed. All the way down the valley.
We stopped on the ridge for a food and water break before heading up the final ridge to the summit of Whatcom Peak. From there, it's an easy ridge walk down to Perfect Pass and then on to the glacier.
Just the ledges down. Challenger Glacier. Perfect Pass. So, Whatcom Peak, down that snow,
the way mountaineering goes, which is the more you approach, the typically easier it gets. Not always, but that's what I find. So Challenger Glacier is a 2-mile glacier that is pretty mellow, though it does have crevasses which require you to rope up for safety and to avoid the obvious cracks as you make your way across. At the end of the glacier, we headed for a rocky prow on the Challenger Arm where we set up camp. Alden and I set up separate camps. I was nestled among some rocks with a large flattest spot to set up my pad and bag. Beef stroganoff. So excited to eat this. I'm so hungry. Man, so good. Salt is amazing. The sunset that evening gave way to a glorious sunrise the next morning, both of which I watched from within my sleeping bag. We packed up camp and set off down the snow slope to make the corner to the edge of the Luna Cirque. Wow.
Doesn't look too bad from here.
No, it doesn't.
Nice and gradual overall.
We set off on a 5.5-mile circumnavigation of the Cirque beneath Fury Peak, down to Lousy Lake, up to Luna Lake, and then a steep ascent to Luna Pass. The constant theme of the Cirque is rocks. Lots and lots of rocks. And lots of water. The snow and ice of an ancient glacier carved the Cirque, tore down the mountain, and there is a lot of loose rocks left behind. Making our way around the Cirque, and eventually we gotta go way over there, so a long ways to traverse. The crux of the traverse is a large waterfall that you cross beneath. Okay, we traversed all along there, crossed under the waterfall, and then came down to here. And from there, you descend toward the valley floor. Strangely, the bottom of the valley is flat, packed gravel. So this moraine is covering the glacier, all the ice. Up to gang Luna Col. Then a very steep ascent up a snowfield before transitioning to more gravel up to Luna Lake.
So many rocks. Oh yeah. Some nice flows coming out of Luna Lake. All right, here we are at the iceberg-filled Luna Lake. We came over there.
The ledges above Luna Lake are beautiful, full of water and greenery with scattered large trees here and there. We stopped for a quick snack and water breaks before making our way up the final set of ledges to the top of the col.
Luna Col and Southern Pickets. Incredible.
From there, I left Alden, who would spend the night at the col and climb Luna and Fury. I had promised Stace I would be home that night. It was 3 p.m. and I had 20 miles left to go. So I started off on my traverse around to the headwaters of Access Creek.
All the way down. I just gotta say that the descent coming out of Access Creek in the gully is just really nasty. Just so steep. Do not like it.
I kept slipping and falling.
So tired of this.
At the bottom of the creek, there were a couple of parties camped that I said hello to. The descent down the creek has been described as hellish by many. I found it to be straightforward.
Making my way down Access Creek, following the cairns, staying in the rocks, but looks like you got a creek crossing here.
You leave the rocks and cross the creek at the marked passage.
Hey, trail.
And then there's an obvious climber's path that leads through the forest.
So far the trail is real and lovely. So much happier now that I'm off of the rocks. Hopefully these miles go faster, and I'm sure the bushwhack will eventually show up. Bushwhacking, but with the trail, so it's not too bad. Slight alder is bad like it always is, but at least there seems to be a way through. So close to being off of this trail, but it's been a trail at least, so it's been really nice.
At Big Beaver Creek, I found a nice big log to cross over.
All right. In the middle of it. Bugs are so bad.
I recommend crossing with a topo line that is not too flat, because that means thickets and swamp, which is what I ended up pushing through for the better part of 30 minutes. Theron's words about the jungle began to haunt me.
What kind of jungle? Finally, trail. Whew. So hot. So much bushwhacking. But so long to go still.
I carried on down the trail, following the frogs until the night came on.
It's dark. So many miles to go.
Finally, at 11 p.m., I texted Stace on my satellite device and told her that I was done. I was tired, and I was going to lay down on the trail and sleep, and that I'd see her the next morning.
All right, it's 4:20 a.m. I just slept on the trail, and I've been going like 45 miles. I got, at least 5 to the trailhead, and then another 7 unless I can get them to come pick me up. So I'm going to start moving again. No food left. Only 7 miles left.
The next day began the usual death march that you experience at the end of a long journey. Tired legs, tired feet, and just wanting to be finished.
Three miles. We're at the resort. Hopefully I can pick somebody to give me a ride.
I was able to get a boat ride, but had to wait 30 minutes for them to open and start working.
Okay, kitty.
Back on the other side of the lake, I had one cruel last mile to climb up to the trailhead. I was moving very slowly.
Done. Cars. Food.
I ordered pizza from Tuta Bella in the car and gobbled it on my way home. As I washed off the grit and grime of 50 miles, I had a deep sense of accomplishment to go along with my deep sense of fatigue. I was grateful to those that showed me the mountain ways, specifically to Seth, for all the shared miles and summits that we had seen, and the time spent tied into a rope together. I had prepared for many years for my journey in the pickets, and I was grateful to Alden for accompanying me, and happy to have seen them in person and returned home safely.